Hello and welcome to my BSP Senior Share presentation. So my name is Mojadi Galebonwe, and here is a brief agenda of what I'm going to be touching on. So I'll do an introduction of myself, and then I'll be looking into some of my main takeaways from all the A&R core classes that I've taken, and then look into the middle lines as well. And then I will kind of go on to connect everything with like my LVS, my learning vision statement, and then kind of present my little creative aspect or creative project to all of this. So my name is Mojadi Galebonwe. I do use she, her, hers pronouns. I am majoring in finance and I am a Bailey scholar. I'm originally from Botswana in Southern Africa. And yeah, I just added the fact that like I kind of do live by the phrase, the best is yet to come, because I think that's very kind of important to me right now in being very positive about the fact that after I graduate, things will still go well. Yeah. And then here I do have a few of the programs that I was involved with here on campus. I am an active member of the Phi Chi Theta Business Professional Fraternity. I've worked with MSU Dialogues and also PO for the Bystander Network and the SAV workshops. And I also did have the pleasure of going for attending the Agriculture Future of America conference. I believe it was last year or the year before that. And it was really fun. I learned a lot from that. So starting off with ANR 210, the four modules, because I couldn't put everything here, but four modules that really stood out to me was the cooking, sustainability, money management, and then yoga or mental health and meditation. I think the mental health and meditation and yoga is always fun to do, but the mental health bit for me was very helpful because I think we all talked about and got it really in depth about just like perfectionism and like how to kind of handle that. And therefore, that's what I'm saying. One of my main key takeaways was to focus more on progress than perfection, right? And then just like thinking about like credit score and credit in general and how to kind of use that wisely. That was also very important, especially somebody who has credit cards. And then with 310, I kind of highlighted textile and crafts, which here I have like my semi-finished knitting kind of item. And then this was from the graphic design module. But some of the other ones that were really interesting to me was like we did isolated civilization and also the history of pandemics. I think isolated civilization was very interesting because we generally, when we talk about civilization, we think about like back in the day with like ancient Egypt and like Mesopotamian civilizations and the like. But we never really talk about present kind of civilizations that are in the modern day and just how that relates to the way that society functions. And so this was very interesting. Then I also did take ANR 311 in the summer of 2020, which was a really good class to take then because of everything that was happening and just like the atmosphere with like the Black Lives Matter protests and everything that is happening. We talked about privilege, we touched on race and racism, and also microaggressions. I think one of my main things that I took away was just the need to educate yourself, to realize that if we're always waiting for minorities, so to say, or people of color to teach us about everything that's happening and why we need to make changes, that's a lot of emotional labor for them. And therefore, it's important that we seek out resources ourselves and kind of find ways that we can educate ourselves and learn and identify areas where we can make changes. So that was very impactful. And for my middle nines, I took Management 352, which is entrepreneurship. For this one, I had a big project where we were working on kind of market segmentation and just market study and research for an eco fashion brand that we worked with. And it was really interesting to kind of see how the whole process from when you like the inception of the idea to just the thinking and the process behind a startup before you actually present a product or service to the market. So that was really interesting. And I really learned some really interesting things about just teamwork and collaboration because we're working as a team and we're all working long distance. So that was really fun too. Then my diversity in the workplace class was also really insightful. Throughout this class, we kept a journal, which was really good for reflection and just like looking into and reflecting on some of the topics that we've covered. And I think one of the emphasis that we made was also the need for diversity and just inclusion at all levels of throughout an organization, and not just focusing on the lower levels, but also even at the top management positions. I think that was a very interesting aspect to kind of bring into the conversation about inclusion. Yes. Then my other class is negotiation and conflict management, which is very relevant because we negotiate all the time. And I think kind of thinking about like job searches and like how we negotiate our pay, and just a lot of things. And I think one of my main takeaways was like, don't be scared to walk away if the terms that are being presented are not favorable for you or they're not going to work for you. And also it's important to know your alternatives so that if you do walk away, you know what you're kind of walking away from and what you're working away to, if that makes sense. So that was very interesting. So connecting this to my learning vision statement, I think the overarching theme for my learning vision statement was just that I want to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I just wanted to kind of push my boundaries and kind of get to learn a little bit more outside of the things that I normally do. So like, i.e., I wanted to do things that are just like beyond my major as like finance and just business. Hence some of the classes that I've taken. And I think Bailey also just presented a really good opportunity for me to kind of learn a lot of things that I was very curious about, but within like a classroom atmosphere. So like with a lot of like, everybody's just so nice and people are very curious, and sometimes people bring up topics that maybe you didn't think about, and that was like very interesting for me. And I think it also just like being able to take a lot of like these entrepreneurship classes and thinking about diversity in the workplace is very relevant because I do want to open up my own practice in the future. So that was very, it brought a lot of things into perspective, maybe things that I didn't think about before. So it really helped me think about just like how I still want to continue to learn and where I see myself going even after graduation. And then for the creative aspect of my presentation, I picked painting. I picked up painting over the summer of 2020, something that I've been kind of doing. And this particular piece is rather significant because, well, first of all, this is kind of a beach scene. And I'm sure we all are wishing for a vacation right now, which is something that I would really love. So I love traveling and this is very nice. But then also I think the other very important part of it too for me is, for the longest time, I didn't really think and define myself as like creative in terms of like the arts. So being able to pick up painting and actually really enjoy it and see myself like push my boundaries and kind of just learn a lot of things about like acrylic painting, and just like getting the materials and the resources that I needed, was, it kind of opened my mind and kind of made me feel a little bit liberated and thinking about the fact that maybe to a certain extent there are certain limitations that I've imposed on myself, and therefore I'm just like constantly looking forward to kind of getting out of that comfort zone and exploring what creativity means for me, in different aspects. So this is a very interesting hobby, and I'm really excited to just kind of continue to like learn a little bit more about it. But that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time. I am a little sad that I'm graduating and leaving BSP, but at the same time, I'm really honored, and just grateful for the opportunity. And yeah, I'm stoked to graduate. So thank you for your time.